Hello there, this is the World News at 12 on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. I am Solomon FM, and here are our top stories. Governor Nasir Idris confirms 24 abducted Kebbi schoolgirls regained freedom. Canada flags Nigeria and 16 African countries at high risk in new travel advisory. TED funds spend 30 billion naira to strengthen security in nation's tertiary institutions. Governor Sanwo-Olu presents 2.4 trillion naira 2026 Lagos budget. On international news, at least 10 people killed in Indonesia, floods and landslides. And in sports, Chelsea dominates Barca in Champions League. Those are our top stories. Details coming up now. First on the news, the 24 schoolgirls abducted in Maga, Kebbi State have regained their freedom, the presidency has disclosed. In a statement on Tuesday by his special advisor on information and strategy, Bayo Onanuga, President Bola Tinubu welcomed the release of the 24 schoolgirls. According to him, Tinubu applauded the security agencies for the effort made to secure the freedom of all the victims taken away by the terrorists. He tasked the security agencies to intensify efforts to rescue the remaining students still being held captive. The governor of Kebbi State, Nasir Idris, has also confirmed the release of the 24 abducted schoolgirls. The governor stated that no ransom was paid by either the state or federal government for the release of the girls. He added that the children will be handed over to their parents on Wednesday. Governor Idris expressed appreciation to President Bola Tinubu for his concern and for directing security agencies to ensure the rescue of the girls. Terrorists struck the school at dawn on November 17 and abducted the girls moments after a military detachment allegedly left the premises. The attackers killed the school's vice principal Malam Hassan Makuku before abducting the schoolgirls. The Kebbi incident triggered similar kidnappings in Eruku, Kwara State and Papiri in Niger State. All 38 kidnapped victims in Eruku were freed on Sunday. On the same day, the Niger State chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, said 50 of the missing students of the Catholic school in Niger had been found in their parents' homes. Meanwhile, at least 10 residents of Isakwa community in Ekiti local government area of Kwara State were abducted on Monday by about 20 armed men. The attackers, who reportedly came into the community alongside their herds, opened fire and carried away several residents, including 7 members of a single family. Among the victims are Fatima Yusuf, a pregnant woman, and 2 nursing mothers. The others abducted residents have been identified as Talatu Kabir, 20 years old, Magaji, 6 years old, Kande, 5 years old, Adisa, 10-year-old, Mariam, 6 years old, Seema, 5 years old, Abibat Sarah Sunday, 22-year-old, Lami Fidelis, 23-year-old, a nursing mother, and Haja Naala, also a nursing mother. In a statement, Adetun Ejire Adeyemi, Kwara Police Command spokesperson, said a search and rescue operation is underway and that normalcy has since returned to the village. The police spokesman confirmed that the command received distress information on sporadic gunfire within the community, with preliminary findings revealing that about 18:05 hours a group of armed men suspected to be herders invaded the village. The government of Canada has issued a new advisory urging citizens to avoid all non-essential travel to Nigeria, including the capital, Abuja, citing an increasingly unpredictable security environment marked by terrorism, crime, armed attacks and kidnappings. The Canadian government dropped one of its biggest travel risk updates in years, warning citizens to steer clear of 17 African countries because of spiraling insecurity, political turmoil and extremist violence. Canadian officials point to a perfect storm of threats, expanding extremist networks in the Sahel and Horn of Africa, a wave of military coup, communal clashes, mass protest, cross-border crime, and fragile governance that leaves many states barely holding together. On the avoid all travel hotspots designations are South Sudan, Burkina Faso, Central African Republic, Libya, Mali, Niger, Somalia and Sudan, while the avoid non-essential travel list include Madagascar, Ethiopia, Burundi, Chad, Democratic Republic of Congo, Eritrea, Mauritania, Nigeria and Tanzania. The advisory released yesterday highlights that while the entire country faces elevated risks, certain regions are considered so dangerous that Canadians are urged to avoid all travel. The only exceptions to the broader warnings are the cities of Lagos and Calabar, where travelers are advised to exercise a high degree of caution rather than avoid travel altogether. According to the travel advice, wide swathes of northern and central Nigeria are experiencing sustained instability driven by extremist violence, banditry, and inter-communal clashes. The Tertiary Education Trust Fund, Net Fund, TET Fund says it has invested more than 30 billion naira to strengthen security in tertiary institutions across Nigeria between January till date. The Chairman, Board of Trustees BOT TET Fund Aminu Mazari made the disclosure in a statement in Katsina on Tuesday. Mazari, who was a one-time governor of Katsina State, said the investment has significantly improved safety for students, lecturers and other campus residents. According to him, the security intervention aligns with President Bola Tinubu's commitment to creating a safe and conducive learning environment in the country's higher institutions. He noted that many institutions had applied for intervention to install solar-powered streetlights, perimeter fencing, and other safety-enhancing projects. He commended the Nigerian president for his continued support to TET Fund, citing the president's approval of a 50% development levy under the 2024 Nigerian tax bill. The TET Fund BOT chairman explained that the recent town hall was designed to update stakeholders on ongoing interventions and receive feedback to prevent TET Fund's operations. According to him, this platform brings all policymakers in tertiary education under one roof: lawmakers, ASU, vice chancellors, students, and others. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu on Tuesday presented a proposed 4.237 trillion naira budget for the 2027 fiscal year to the State House of Assembly, with the House vowing to meticulously scrutinize the proposal. Security was heightened within and around the Assembly complex, with officers from the police, the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, and the Lagos State Neighborhood Safety Corps stationed at major entry points. Members of the State Executive Council, local government officials, traditional rulers, and other invited guests attended the session, which was presided over by the Speaker Mudashiru Obasa. Sanwo-Olu began his presentation of the budget tagged Budget of Shared Prosperity at about 2:25 p.m. The proposed budget consists of total revenue of approximately 3.9 trillion naira and deficit financing of approximately 343.3 billion naira. The revenue is made up of internally generated revenue of approximately 3.1 trillion naira and federal transfer of approximately 874 billion naira. For expenditure, the government is proposing capital expenditure of approximately 2.2 trillion naira and recurrent expenditure of 2.1 trillion naira approximately. The recurrent expenditure, which covers overheads, personal cost and debt services, includes an overhead cost of approximately 1.1 trillion naira. Personnel and debt obligations costs consist of personnel cost of 440 billion naira approximately, recurrent debt charges of 143 billion naira approximately, and a debt repayment of 383 billion naira. Sanwo-Olu explained that the budget is anchored on 4 pillars: a human-centered approach, modern infrastructure, a thriving economy, and effective governance, all aligned with the state themes plus agenda. You are currently listening to the World News at 12 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We'll take a very short break. When we return, we'll head into the news analysis segment. If you're just tuning in, this is the World News at 12 on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. Joining me to help analyze our news item is Dele Fanimo, in-house current affairs analyst. Mr. Fanimo, thank you very much for joining us on the news. Pleasure. Now, unfortunately, the insecurity situation in the country is still the biggest talking point, both nationally and internationally. All around the world now, Nigeria is making lots of headlines, I would say, for all the wrong reasons. So in as much as we want to avoid these insecurity issues, it is not avoidable. But this time is a bit of good news. Some of the abducted girls that were persons that were abducted in the last couple of days, some of them have regained freedom. And the most recent one is the 24 schoolgirls abducted in Maga, Kebbi State, confirmed by the presidency, courtesy of the Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Nanuga, and of course confirmed by the Kebbi State Governor Nasiru Idris. Now, but what the talking point out of these releases is what was the price? The government have insisted that there was no ransom paid, either from the states, the federal and local governments. But the question now is, what was the price? If these people can invade schools and abduct students in droves, it's hard to believe that they would just release the students and children like that without anything to pay. What do you think is the price, that the government paid? I mean, we're not there, we can't see what happened, we can only postulate. So what do you think happened? Or is it part of the background peace deals that we keep hearing about? What do you think happened?
Well, to the extent of my understanding of security situation in the country as a layman, what played out, according to Bayo Nanuga, the spokesperson of the president, was when soldiers closed in on them, and there were some kind of pushback.
Okay.
Because the soldiers also felt there could be collateral damage if you go into their den and try to rescue, because most of these victims are used as human shields in their den. So I think reason prevailed, and there was discussion, and out of the fact that it was apparent that these people would have to back off to release those innocent victims, and they were released. That's the picture painted by Onanunga.
But what do you think? Because
But,
this is looking
That's where I'm coming.
perfect.
Now, from experience in the past, you will know that such things don't happen. Because we have heard in the past where governments, especially the police, will say, we rescue these people without paying a dime. And when you accost any of those victims, they will tell you otherwise.
Yes.
In some cases, they pay as much as 10 million, 20 million to secure their release. And I've interviewed victims of kidnapping. It's a harrowing experience.
It is.
Because it's like you are borrowing every second. You don't know what would aggravate the anger of the man who's holding you hostage.
I mean, you're seeing your life flashing before your eyes.
And it will just open fire, And so, in the days ahead, when these people would have properly settled in to their various homes, we'll get to know if actually ransom was paid or not. But it looks too good.
Yeah, it looks too picture perfect.
Yes, to want to believe that there was no ransom paid and there was no negotiation. The only thing that I know is if there is no ransom, then the presence of the federal force would have been so overwhelming, and they would have encircled those people, and maybe they not decide to negotiate their exit peacefully and allow the victims to go. Those are the two scenarios that I suspect. Either ransom was paid, or the security presence around that area is so overwhelming that the bandits maybe either fled or surrender.
But there may also be a third option, some sort of backroom negotiations being made. I mean,
before
this escalation of kidnappings in the last couple of weeks, we've been hearing quite a number of communities having peace deals with a lot of
bandits.
Yes, and we hear some of these conditions and these bandits to be allowed to live in the village, allowed to marry their girls. Some will have to pay a certain amount of money to these bandits, and at the end of the day, after 1 or 2 weeks, negotiation breakdown, and they resume kidnapping activities.
You see, one thing is very clear about kidnapping, about criminality. Those days when I was reading the James Ali Chase, what comes around in most of these James Ali Chase novels is that a blackmailer never stops. The more you give in, the more he asks for higher stakes. And that the only thing you can do to a blackmailer is to take him out. Now, or
release all the information he thinks he have about you, where he doesn't have anything to hang over your head anymore.
Yeah. And it will be at a cost anyway.
Definitely.
It will be at a cost. So for me, I've not seen any country where terrorists come to round table with government to negotiate.
Yeah.
I don't see it. Imagine Osama bin Laden with Barack Obama.
Yeah.
What are they going to discuss on the round table? That I will make sure that my disciples stops harassing American interests everywhere in the world. It doesn't happen. And you see, politics has been suffused into this kidnapping game. And then You see, when kidnapping came during the agitation by Niger Delta militants, everybody was applauding them. I say, this thing is not going to end, though.
But the difference is there was actually an agitation.
To that. You see, I said it's not going to end because some people had shown them the model that you could easily kidnap and commit robbery.
And this could be a huge business.
And it's huge business. So the Niger Delta guys were not kidnapping for ransom. They were kidnapping to make statements.
Exactly.
Now,
there was an agitation.
If you don't leave my community, I will kidnap your expatriates. And then the day you move out of my community and take off your oil rigs and excavators,
you release them.
We release them. And that was what they were doing. But when those who saw the business side of it, the economic side of it, took over, in fact, at some point in the southeast, they were kidnapping corpses. They hijack corpses and say you have to pay so amount of money before they release the corpse to you, particularly on the eve of the burial, when everybody would have assembled from America, from Asia and all that for the burial ceremony. They will just hijack. It's as bad as that. Even in some community, even in Southwest there, it's just a fraction of some of these kidnappings that you get to read or listen to, or in social media or watch in social media. It is the high profile one that they demand. Some orchestrate kidnapping now. That's why you hardly see people reporting to the police that they have been robbed. On the highway, you hardly see anybody being robbed. Because for me, as I'm seated here now, if I had to travel from here to Maiduguri, I don't need to carry more than 5,000 naira. And I might as well keep my ATM somewhere. Maybe when I get to Maiduguri, I just go to the nearest branch of my bank, do transactions, and then I'll continue with my job. So it's no longer lucrative for people to take the risk of committing armed robbery. It's more lucrative. You pick high-profile person, and in 1 or 2 days, that person is paying 100 million naira into your account. Why would you now go to another man's house that you end up raking in maybe 20,000 naira, and the risk are higher? You can be caught. You can be brought down. So, but what we are saying now is kidnapping has assumed different dimensions. Now, the cells are becoming proliferated. Look at what happened in Kwara. As they were releasing some people, they were also kidnapping more. So that tells you that the gang that kidnapped and released is different from the one that just kidnapped.
They are different factions.
So they have developed various cells. And it's just like you chasing 20 rats in your room. You may end up not killing one. You understand? And the only way you can kill is to apply strategic and tactical operation, which could mean disinfecting the house, which could mean giving them poison and all the rest. So what we have today, and that was why when I read in the papers this morning that federal government was going to provide area surveillance on Kebbi, Kwara, Niger, and one other state. And I asked myself, if you are concentrating on just 4 out of 36 states and Abuja, so what makes you think that those people will not relocate from where you are concentrating? And before you even take off, you are already making announcements. So you have given them ample time to relocate to another state that is more vulnerable,
and probably even counter the surveillance you have, because there are technology to counter. They will not even want to waste that time and money in acquiring weapons that were. Since you have announced that this territory is no go area, I'll move to another territory, and that's what is going to play out. Don't be surprised that adjoining and contiguous states of these states that federal government is concentrating on will be assailed anytime from now. Which means anybody around Ondo State, anybody around Ekiti State should not go to sleep.
because once they are leaving those states, they are not going back up north. They want to come down south.
They're encroaching down to this other
And
side of the country.
That's why I commend the proactive stance, action
of the Southwest
governors. That look, you don't wait until somebody comes to your doorstep before you repel that person.
I mean, it's inevitable. It's just a matter of when, not if.
Yes. So they are taking proactive measures, and I want to implore our Southeast governors too, and South governors, that nobody is safe, nobody is immune to these attacks. It is better you prepare, and prepare very well. I
mean, the fact that
so that you are not caught napping.
The fact that there's a surge in kidnapping right now means these people have been emboldened for whatever reason. Now, but the another question though is the ease at which these kidnapped people were rescued. I mean, for some less than 48 hours, these people have been rescued. Not all of them, but majority of them, further gives credence and legitimacy to people that accuse the government that they are involved in this business. There are hierarchy political figures involved in this business, and the federal government knows what to do really if they want to stop insecurity, because I mean they know where to go to.
You see, unfortunately, those who are behind this, they don't know that when you ride on the back of a tiger, you may end up in the belly of the tiger. Those who created these monsters during 2014-2015 election, I'm sure they didn't envisage this kind of thing.
They didn't know it will escalate to this
level. You understand? Now they have created this monster they cannot tame. And they have developed into various groups and cells that if you are trying to pin this one down, this one is preparing onslaught. And our forests, the most dangerous part of it is these people, they know the terrain more than even the locals. But the locals go deep into forest.
But what about these forest guards? They
have not recruited them, not to talk of training them.
Why is it taking so long? I mean, these are special times.
The point is, when they were making that announcement, that particular project was not captured in the current budget. So it was just a policy shunned out for the optics until the next budget, 2026, when such will be captured.
I mean, if the federal government can do supplementary budget, if the federal government borrow,
that is what I would have expected, because I was expecting a supplementary budget that will capture this emergency. But unfortunately, we have not heard of that. There's a difference between supplementary budget and there's this borrowing. Borrowing may be captured in the budget to show up budget deficit. But when something that you didn't envisage happens, you need to go either to the state assembly or the national assembly to say, I didn't envisage that terrorism will take this dimension, and we need to respond. And so I will be applying for 1, 2, 3 trillion extra budgetary spending, which will pass through the National Assembly for approval. But unfortunately, we have not heard, and we have just 1 month away.
Well, talking about international communities and the bad names we've been having, the government of Canada has issued a new advisory urging citizens to avoid all non-essential travels in Nigeria, including the capital, Abuja. I mean, of course, 17 other African countries, but I mean, our business is basically Nigeria. And the only exception for the border warnings are the cities of Lagos and Calabar. Thank God for that. But these is
why would you say thank God for that?
I mean,
is every Nigerian in Lagos?
No, but
don't you have friends?
At least there's still the point is at least there are two states that are safe, or relatively safe.
The way you said it was that okay, if it's not coming to my area, then I'm safe.
Well, so This is negating the defense that the presidency have been having in favor of the president's numerous traveling. Don't forget, the president has been challenged and accused several times of excessive traveling at a point where before it got to this height, there were still a lot of issues, most notably the Benue massacre.
Yes.
Where he's been traveling, and the presidency have been saying, the president have been traveling to shore up more investment into this country, and these further negate that. What is the essence of all those travelings and advertising the country to the world, trying to bring investment to the country with these insecurity issues? How do you attract investment with this insecurity? And the Canadian government, this is not the first government, the first country to advise their citizens, don't go to Nigeria. If you go, these are only the state, and this state you should go, this other state don't go. This is a damaging image to the country, not less. For the economic situation benefits, this investment will have brought to this country.
The first thing that will be casualty in this is foreign direct investment, because nobody wants to put his or her money except those who understand high risk investment. We want to bring in his or her money to a place that is not safe. And do you know that?
And those kind of investment will most likely be legitimate.
That's what I'm saying.
We want to do legitimate high risk investment.
Apart from that, when there is strict corporate governance, the lending institution would also factor this high risk before they roll out their money. So it's going to suffer loss of foreign direct investment. That's one. Then two, what about the image of the country? It will definitely affect the image of the country. Even before the escalation of terrorism and banditry and kidnapping, we've always had this image of Africa when you travel to Europe and America or even Far East.
Poverty, underdevelopment, farming.
They look at you from the prism of a Kwashoko person, and sometimes
living in trees.
Sometimes they will even be bold to accost you and say, "Are you from Africa?" Because usually they don't say, "Are you from Nigeria?"
Yeah.
Any black man is an African, so they'll say, "Are you from Africa?" When you say yes, say, "How come you are looking good?" He's not going to ask you, "Why are you not showing trace of poverty?" How come you're looking good? You're looking good. But that's not a compliment. He's saying, maybe this one is one of the thieves from Africa that came to lodge his loot here in my country.
It is subtle insult.
Now we have this in our hands, and unfortunately, government is not showing enough political will to deal with this, and it will assail us for a long time. Even if this is de-escalated, because the assumption would be that maybe there could be an upsurge. There was a time around April, May, June that we had moments of respite.
Yeah.
That there were no bombing, there were no kidnaps, except for a few occasions that maybe the locals kidnapped themselves. In fact, it got to
one or two, few herdsmen clashes here and there.
It got to a ridiculous extent that wives were even feigning kidnap to extort their husband.
Yeah.
Children were feigning kidnap to extort their father. But now it has escalated. Those amateurs addressed their case. Now it's the professionals that are doing the job. But I know that either we like it or not, we must confront this, and we must do everything within our powers to make sure that we reduce this tension. And of course, it's still towards 2027.
And finally, the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TET Fund, said it has invested more than 30 billion naira to strengthen security in tertiary institutions across Nigeria between January to date. The question is, what kind of safety and security measures have been put? how much can be put into security of tertiary institutions that can secure them?
You see,
because it's one thing for you to bring out this figure. It's another thing for you to highlight steps that have been taken, and we don't get to see this. They just bring out the money and expect Nigerians to just clap. Oh, 30 billion naira.
That's like you said. For us to come to terms with some of these statements, we need, in concrete terms, we need them to show us what they've done with this money. Because I know that some first generation tertiary institutions have always had their own security apparatus.
Yeah, campus security. Yeah.
And usually made up of ex-servicemen, either in the police or in the armed forces. So maybe there is a further complement of existing ones we are not told, we don't know, we have not seen. Maybe you are drafting regular policemen, probably in Mufti, to do surveillance in some of those campuses. We don't know yet. So, because we have seen situations where government would announce huge sums of money being allocated to address certain problem, whereas the money does not even get to the end user. We have seen in this country that farm implements, farm seedlings and all that will be distributed, and they will give it to somebody who has never been to farm before, who will sell to the agri farmers. For instance,
I spoke to a farmer yesterday that said the same thing.
Yes, I witnessed it firsthand. I was in my house on a Saturday morning when somebody who came to visit me received a call that she should come to the local government headquarters as quickly as possible. She went, and by the time she was coming, she chartered a taxi laden with maize seedlings, pesticides, herbicides, and all the rest. I said, you received the call, and in less than 2 hours you are coming with it. Where is it coming from? He said, they said she should go and thumbprint that they want her biometric as quickly as possible, so that she can benefit from this, because she is a politician. So obviously what, and this is a woman that even her father never went to a farm, not to talk of this woman who is a professional, who had never seen. In fact, if you ask her, how do you get yam, she might tell you that she's going to pluck it from the tree. It's as bad as that. Now, government rules have recorded it that those things go to the end user. Do you know what happened? This woman sold to those who will resell to that farmer that is expecting this thing free of charge to cushion the effect of looking for money to buy those things. So this 30 billion may have gone that same way in people's hands. You need to see vice chancellors on campus. You will mistake them for governors now. That's why the jostle for the position of vice chancellor on campus now is as fierce as APC, PDP put together.
Wow. Mr. Fanimo, thank you very much for time. Thank you for your insight. That was Dele Fanimo, our in-house current affairs analyst. And for a quick look at what's happening outside Nigeria, torrential monsoon rains have set off destructive floods and landslides across Indonesia's Sumatra island, killing at least 10 people and leaving dozens of others missing, according to local authorities. Days of relentless rainfall since Monday forced rivers in North Sumatra province to overflow, sending mud, rocks, and uprooted trees crashing through villages and 6 regencies. The National Police said on Wednesday that rescue teams were struggling to reach isolated communities as damaged roads, unstable slopes, and persistent downpours continued to slow operations. Authorities said 5 bodies and 3 injured survivors were recovered in the coastal city of Shibolga, the area hit hardest by the flooding. Search teams are looking for 4 missing residents as damage assessments continue. In neighboring central Tapanuli, landslides crushed several homes, killing at least 4 members of one family, while severe flooding submerged nearly 2,000 houses and public buildings. Further south, floods and falling trees killed 1 resident in South Tapanuli and injured another. A bridge in Mandalane Natal district was destroyed, cutting off access for nearby communities, while 470 homes were inundated. Still on international news, Taiwanese President William Lai-Ching-te has announced a $40 billion budget for defense spending over the next 8 years to get closer to the vision of an unassailable Taiwan, safeguarded by innovation and technology. Taiwan has been ramping up defense spending over the past decade, but United States President Donald Trump's administration has pushed the self-ruled island to further increase its defense spending as a means of to deter a potential Chinese attempt to regain control over the territory. Lai said on Wednesday that the military aim to have a high level of joint combat readiness against China by 2027, which U.S. officials have previously cited as a possible timeline for a Chinese military operation on the island. Lai's announcement came as Tokyo and Beijing were locked in a weeks-long diplomatic spat that followed remarks by Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi suggesting Japan could intervene militarily in any attack on Taiwan. China claims the island as part of its territory and has threatened to use force to regain control over it. The U.S. top envoy in Taiwan, Raymond Green, said he welcomes the government's spending plan and urged the island's rival political parties to find common ground on boosting its defenses. Finally, on our sports news, Chelsea ramped up a dominant 3-0 win at home to 10-man Barcelona in the Champions League on Tuesday, with Pep Guardiola's much-changed Manchester City went down to their first defeat of the Champions League against Bayern Leverkusen for the current campaign. In a battle between the second-placed sides in the Premier League and La Liga, Chelsea emerged emphatic winners thanks to goals from 18-year-old Estevao and Liam Delap after Jules Koundé's own goal that had given the 2021 Champions League winners a first-half lead. The visitors played just over half of the encounter, a player down following Captain Ronald Araujo's dismissal for 2 bookable offences on the stroke of half-time. Victory propelled Chelsea to 5th in the league phase standings on 10 points. Meanwhile, Guardiola surprisingly rested the majority of his stars at the Etihad, with Erling Haaland, Ruben Dias, Bernardo Silva and Gianluigi Donnarumma all left out of the starting lineup as Manchester City went down 2-0 to Leverkusen. A first loss of the campaign for Manchester City, coming hot on the heels of Saturday's 2-1 defeat at Newcastle in the Premier League, leaves the 2023 winners on 10 points. While defeat shall likely not prove fatal to their hopes of reaching the knockout stages, it was a chastening 100 European match in charge of City for Guardiola. And before we go, here again our top stories. Governor Nasir Idris confirms 24 abducted Kebbi schoolgirls regain freedom. Canada flags Nigeria and 16 African countries as high risk in new travel advisory. Tet Fund spent 30 billion naira to strengthen security in nation's tertiary institutions. Governor Sanwo-Olu presented 4.2 trillion naira 2026 Lagos budget. On our foreign news, at least 10 people killed in Indonesia floods and landslides. And in sports, Chelsea dominate Barcelona in Champions League. And that's the World News at 12 on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. I am Solomon. Do follow our social media handles at VOP903FM. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at VOP903FM. Good afternoon and thank you for listening.